thewellnesscouch.com, streaming wellness into your lives. This is Up for a Chat with Cyndi O'Meara, Karen Smith, and Kim Morrison.
Here we are, up for a chat about the hottest topics that are important to you, inspiring you to awaken the change within. I'm Kim Morrison from 28.com.
And I'm Cyndi O'Meara from changinghabits.com.au.
And we're missing the beautiful Karen this week.
Yeah, that's because her Matt didn't want to do this.
Her Matt just decided that this wasn't going to be a show for the week. Matt isn't someone that's willing to express what it means to live with Karen Smith. So we are incredibly excited. You have all been asking us for the nearly 3 years to hear from the gorgeous men behind us two who are losing it.
They're losing it. Both of them are losing it.
So I'm just going to let you listeners know that these two have a bromance going on. They are each other's long-lost boyfriends, pretty much in the same way that we are, gorgeous Cyndi. So we just want to say welcome, you delicious souls. It is such a treat to have you on board, on air at last. And really... what could we say? Thank you, and thank you for putting up with us.
We can talk.
We're allowed
to chat on this.
We're allowed to talk.
Actually, it's not about them. It's all about us.
Yeah. What do you think about us?
Yeah, we'd like to know what you think about us. No, let's not go there. Let's not go there.
Well, I want to start with the delicious Howard O'Meara, but I would love to know... just both of you give us a bit of a background so that these guys get to understand who you are and why you're such beautiful parts of our lives. So Howie, tell us your life, what it was like growing up. We're fellow Kiwis. She's a bit outnumbered here.
She was very outnumbered.
Oh my gosh,
very outnumbered. 3 Kiwis and one Australian. Well, part Kiwi.
Yeah, well, my dad was in Kiwi, so I am 30. I am 50% Kiwi.
Hoorah! So what was I growing up? Very much in the beach area. So virtually where we are now. So North Shore of Auckland, Takapuna, Murray Bay. But when I grew up, it was sand hills, dirt roads, a lot of freedom, bike to school, all this kind of stuff. So very different from what it is today. Very different. So a lot of freedom. But just grew up camping, beach, surfing, freedom. I think was the big one.
You're a bit of an adventurist, aren't you?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, considering how you...
We're all kind of laughing now.
Yeah.
I was just sitting here with 7 stitches in my hand, on my wrist.
I was going to say, our listeners need to know that every time the 4 of us get together, someone ends up in hospital for some reason. I'm not sure what that's about. My shoulder cost $10,000. I'm still not sure who to invoice.
She's fallen off a horse behind me.
Oh, my Lord.
Had her arm wrenched out of her shoulder behind Howard when you were skiing.
Oh, my gosh.
And so when they didn't come on holidays with us last time, we got injured.
Yeah.
And now Howard went off by himself without Danny this weekend and got injured.
Yeah, so adventurous is definitely a key word with you two, which I think is what we both love about you. But Howard, you've been a teacher, a policeman, and a doctor of chiropractic. Tell us how you went through those and what made you keep changing. What's your key?
Yeah, look, I don't know, really. People say to me, what is it? What does it drives you? Adventure, it drives me. Challenge and change drives me. So where did my adventurous spirit come from? I don't really know. My dad was very much outdoors, very much camping, that kind of thing. But his generation, our parents' generation, one career, and the company will look after you, this kind of thing. My generation and subsequently further generations, our kids, you have 5 or 6 careers as you go along. So where did that come from? I don't really know. Very high goal setter. And I set my goals, and once I reach the goals, there's nothing else to do.
He gets bored.
I get bored. Yeah, I get bored very quickly. So when I look at my career, chiropractic was the longest I've ever been in a career, 25 years around about. And that's probably because family, you get there, you've got to provide, etc., etc. Whereas before it's been 8 years, you reach a goal, you set your targets, get the goal, whatever that may be. Then I usually look around and say, okay, what's next? What's the next adventure? Rather than getting stuck in something that's just becomes mundane.
I noticed that all of them are educationally based, really, or supporting or protecting, like very much around making sure the community's safe, our kids are learning, and also then looking at healthcare. In the same token that health has been really important to Danny, was there any significant thing that made you choose chiropractic as above any other medical?
Oh, back injury of my own, really. That's playing football in New Zealand, so it was a back injury of my own. But if you have a look at its all-round service, so the school teacher, helping people, policeman, chiropractor, bus driver, tour guide, all that kind of thing. And now with Changing Habits, CEO of Changing Habits. So it's all in that service industry. Where did that come from? I don't know.
Servicing your wife.
Servicing the wife.
Just
right.
saying.
It's the same.
She goes there
Danny's
every
eyes
time.
are,
No, she goes there every time.
Sorry, back to
Sorry.
Yeah, just keep it clean. So where did that service come from? I don't really know either. Same as that, the adventure. Just something that kind of developed, and loved it. I always wanted to be a policeman. Did the school teaching first. I always wanted to get some sort of qualification behind me to lead on to further things. I don't know. The school teaching did me really well in the police force because I got that job with the Royal Family, and that was due to my teaching background because I was actually working in a school.
Talk about your stint with the Royal Family, what happened there and how you got chosen, and how long you were there in it and who you were with. And
Go on, give it to us.
I'll give it to you.
Go on.
Easy.
Well, I was fortunate in terms of being selected. There's about 50 of us. Out of all the New Zealand police, got down to about 50, then down to 20, then down to 10. Then we had a big fitness test and personality test, I guess you could say. And got down to 3 of us. So myself and another guy worked with Prince Edward, looked after him for almost 2 years. And we had another spear guy as well. So how did I get it? I believe because of my teaching background, because he was actually in a school. He came to Wanganui Collegiate and was a tutor at that time. So we actually lived in the school with him. So I was well familiar with that type of surrounding. Had a ball, I mean, it was fun. Stressful because you're out with them 24/7. We went camping, we'd go shopping down the local shops, all this kind of stuff. Lots of trips, went through the South Pacific. That was interesting.
are you going
Great
to tell
time.
us a story about
Which
what
one?
happened to you in the South Pacific, Howard?
Which one?
With the king. The king. You were with the king.
Oh, Cindy's bringing up a story there, so
Go on,
I've
go
got
on,
to tell a
it's the
story.
best
I've got to tell a
story.
story. So we're sitting in Tonga. We're in Tonga, and it's the King of Tonga, who's now deceased, but King of Tonga, Prince of Tonga, all the ladies in waiting at this big long table.
Prince Edward.
And Prince Edward was there, myself, the other policeman, a couple of Tongan policemen, all on this big long table, beautifully set out. You imagine it's the kingdom of Tonga, it's the King of Tonga. Just magnificent, right? But we're all sitting kind of cross-legged, so it's not that comfortable, very cross-legged. And then behind the big table was all these sliding glass doors. And then just outside of the sliding glass doors were about 10 or 12 ladies, and they were just singing. And it was just beautiful. It was absolutely magnificent. But unfortunately, kind of halfway through the whole dinner and the whole conversation, and I'm sitting pretty close to the king, and sorry,
just
get my hands
knocking
off
the
the
table.
table. Knocking the table. So I'm sitting very close to the King of Tonga, and right next to me is Prince Edward, and the other side of him was the other New Zealand policeman, and then a couple of Tongan policemen and a few other dignitaries there. And I had to go to the loo. I was just busting to go to the loo. So we're sitting there in suit, and I'm fully loaded up. I've got my pistol on me and all this kind of stuff. So, and we're highly trained, alert policemen. I've got to get that in. Okay, we're highly trained, very alert, right on the ball policemen. Right?
Yes.
And there's sort of there's stuff happening, and you've got to keep watching all the time. So I've just got to go to the loo. So I get up, and I know that the loo's outside. And I get up, and one of the glass doors was half open, half closed, right? And then there was a screen door as well. And I guess you're laughing there, you can hear what's coming. So I get up, and I walk out, just to excuse myself. And again, just imagine the king's there and everyone's there. And I walk smack into the glass door. And it's just like this thump. and I go reeling back and just about collapse onto the floor.
Making a massive scene.
And massive scene, So this highly alert, highly trained policeman carrying a firearm smacks into this glass door, and almost knocked myself out. And I kind of get stunned, and I kind of, get up, and I could see Prince Edward just kind of mouth the gate looking at me.
Well, we chose a good one here.
Yeah, I kind of snuck out and snuck back in. Yeah, and the other two policemen never let me forget it.
Oh, I love it. I love
it. It was funny. It was painful. It was painful, but but a lot of fun. I say, how do I get into these things? I don't know. I just go looking for adventure.
You're an
all the
adrenaline
time.
junkie, I reckon.
I'd like him to tell one more story, and we'll go across to your beautiful husband, who's sitting very quietly there, looking at Rose. I like when you tell me when you met. Well, you met Princess Diana. You babysitted William, but when you met the Queen.
We were very privileged. In fact, I'll take a step backwards. So some years ago, when I was a school teacher, I tripped around England, and did all the usual tourist things, which is Windsor Castle, Buckingham Palace, all that kind of thing. And when I was doing the tourist thing, I stood outside Buckingham Palace and took a photograph looking into Buckingham Palace. And then Windsor Castle, same thing, tourist. And I stood outside the certain gate and took a photograph up into this turret. Now, why I did that, I have no idea. But some years later, I'm actually inside Buckingham Palace, looking out of my office window. I say my office was the police office, looking out straight at that gate where I took the photograph from. And we actually lived in Windsor Castle, so I lived in Windsor Castle for 2 weeks. And my bedroom was up in that turret that I'd taken a photograph of as a tourist. And I looked down, I took that same photograph of that same gate. Yeah, just amazing.
In the opposite.
Yeah, just amazing.
It's almost along the lines of manifestation or things like that.
Who would have ever thought that? Like, how many people take that photo? And who would have ever thought that, he would be back there, but on the other side where all the tourists are looking into, and
it was
meet
amazing.
The Queen and meet.
It was amazing. I went back recently, but unfortunately that area of Windsor Castle now is closed off due to security, and you can no longer get to that gate and get as close to Windsor Castle as what you used to.
You are certainly an adventure freak, Howie, and you have some extraordinary stories.
Well, you were asking about the Queen. So we were in Windsor Castle just having a quiet day. And one of the Queen's policemen comes racing into where we were staying, because we're just lying about, quick, get dressed, What do you mean get dressed? Oh, you've got to get your suit on and your tie. What's happening? Oh, I can't tell you. So we quickly get dressed and we enter this car and we're right down Windsor Castle, right out into the paddocks. And in the distance, we'd see two people on horseback riding towards us. And as we got closer and closer, we realised it was the Queen with her bodyguard.
She was on a horse?
She was on the horse. Well, they do a lot of riding. Yeah, they ride everywhere. But rode up to us, got off a horse, and come over and shook her hands. And this is, quite unusual, because usually she has gloves, and this is kind of the ritual. She took her gloves off, which is really unusual, completely unusual, and shook her hands, which was a real privilege, and said, "Oh, you're the guys looking after my son. Thank you very much." And we just had a sort of 5-minute chat, and she got on the horse and wandered off again. Yeah. But the other, I just got to take the other one. So in Windsor Castle, our policeman takes us up to the top of Windsor Castle where the turret is, and there's a flag flying. That's the Queen's flag flies up there. And we're up there, and we're just having a good old view, looking around. This is the day before we met the Queen. Looking around, And when we met the Queen, she said, "Oh, and you're the guys who are up on my turret." So where she was at that time, I don't know. She'll probably walk in the corgis somewhere,
Bad Kiwis.
Yeah.
Antipodeans.
So we were well and truly spotted, at that time. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Howard has the most amazing stories of being a policeman. Like, he can keep us entertained forever with his stories. But let's go to you, Danny, and let's see what your life was like when you were being brought up in Auckland. You were in Auckland, weren't you?
Yeah.
Auckland?
Same geography. Similar geography to Howie. Yeah, absolutely. So Howie in Mairangi Bay, and Howie mentioned he went to Westlake Boys High School, which was the rival college up the road, and I went to Takapuna Grammar, co-ed school, and some very forthright people. They had an ex-All Black who was the principal, a guy called Jack Kelly, played only a couple of test matches with the All Blacks. But I came from a very left-wing, very liberal upbringing. My father left when I was 7, so I had this house full of women that really were quite influential on me. Obviously my mother. One of my mother's other very good friends, a woman called Helen Booth, lived downstairs with her daughter, little Millie, had a sister, and I had a younger sister. And my uncle Reuben, who still flies for Air New Zealand. He's a purser, cabin crew in New Zealand. So he was in my life a lot. And then some of Mum's other, as inverted commas, thespian mates. So when I was in between doing different codes of, say, rugby and playing soccer and cricket, I had 2 wonderful formative years when I was 11 and 12, and I went to the Maidment Theatre in Auckland University, and we did pantomime things, and we did sculpture, and we got up and did theatre sports and stuff like that. So when I look at where it's led me to now, funny enough, going full circle, in terms of either then going to play cricket internationally, but also in my role of being more entertaining and talking to a television camera and commentating and being in that industry of cricket, I look at that as being a wonderful education. Having listened to Howie, where like a chameleon, you develop and change. I was fortunate that I had that change of playing cricket, doing cricket, living and breathing it, to then going into writing about it, talking about it, doing radio talkback shows, and then doing magazine shows around the game, and doing all these different facets, which is great variety. I mean, I've loved it. I mean, and then coming here, spoiled coming here. It was a lovely other resort for me. And if I'm sort of peeling back the layers and being honest, it was quite a catalyst for me to come in terms of drama. Again, drama, my life. Drama at home, and my sister committing suicide. So when Kim said to me, with Fleur getting on a plane to go to Whangarei, and I was doing some sales and marketing, I was also doing a radio night show, I was also doing some cricket commentary, I was also doing a cricket show, was that, Dan, do you think you could come and live in Australia? I went, shit, yeah, when? Just like that, probably a few more expletives on air. But
you'd also already met Howie and Cyndi then.
Yeah,
you'd already met Howie
in 2004. You're right. I'll never forget that too. That was Easter 04. Easter 04 coming over before you took our wedding at the beach house. And you guys were in the beach house, and then Kim asked you if we could come and stay in the beach house, and that was like May 06. So we ended up meeting in late September of 06. So it's been nearly 10 years.
Can we go back to when you were chosen to play for New Zealand? Can you just describe the build-up to that and then being chosen and how it felt for you to play international cricket for as long as you did? And can you just go through that?
I was fortunate to see in 1977 2 great protagonists, which were Dennis Lilly and Richard Hadley, butting heads. So I saw that on TV, thought that was pretty cool. Then my mother took me with a guy called Mervyn Thompson, who was an art director and did plays and was a writer, and he was passionate about cricket as well. I remember him, he was going through a bit of a crisis and was asleep on my mother's lap, he was going through a whole breakdown, and we were watching the great Imran Khan dismantle and break down the New Zealanders. So I watched that in January of 79, and I'd made at that point then, when I look back on that, and I ran into my principal of Takapuna Grammar, which was Murray Deaker, who came along in February of 1980. And when I'd been there for the rest of that year, there's a big honours board roll thing that's painted with the gold writing of former pupils that have obviously been international sports, or whether it was canoeing, whether it was Olympic sports, whether it was rugby, tennis, whatever, water polo. They were all on there, and I winked at Murray Deaker one day in late 1980 and said to him, "Mate, I'll be up on there one day, mark my words." And he just looked at me and winked, going, "Danny, it's nice to dream big and have high aspiring goals." "Nice one, Deeks," I said, so I walked on there. So then that's where it probably started for me, around that late 70s, 80, and I thought, this is what I really wanted to do. So I was 14 in 1980, 14, 15. So I was saying, this is what I really want to do. And so people will laugh at you, and people ask me about this too. Was that a motivating thing for you to say, because people, not so much ridiculed you, but said, look, you couldn't do it? They said, no, you won't be able to do that. And people weren't so much about it. They were actually just, oh, nice, Dan. Probably thinking, yeah, right. Let's get real here, and do other things. And I was a bit like Howie. I was going to go down when I was finishing Takapuna Grammar. I was going to go down to a physical education diploma, in Otago, and then I was going to go and follow some other mates to do that. As it turned out, it didn't happen because then I went straight from school, went to England. So, and it's a bit similar to Howie. Went and did like a bit of an OE and trekked around, but it was through cricket to go to England, and did the Windsor Castle thing and loved all that. And I think music was a big thing for me. Music was massive for me. So the combination of the music, travel, history, and you've probably been listening to me about dates and getting dates and all that, it's very key for me, bang, 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 chronological, smashing out dates, smashing out time, where I'm going, what I want to do, is so that was a driving factor to say, I really want to do this. Once I'd been in England, and I'm talking about 1984, first, and just a bit of club cricket.
So about 18 at this stage.
18,
Yep.
and then moving in, and then sort of realising, and then being in a trial, playing against the New Zealand side that was to go to Pakistan.
Just while you're in England playing for Harefield Cricket, I love the story of all the boys asked you if you wanted to play, what were you doing there, and you said you wanted to open the bowling with Sir Richard Hadley.
Oh, yes.
Tell that story.
Yeah, there was. I'd been in '84, so this was '86, and I obviously now I was 20, so I'd filled out a little bit more. Hadn't got any taller, little hobbit runt. So that's what they looked at me and thought, who's the shaft lift inspector? G'day, son, what are you doing all these geezers from London, you know what I mean? And so they go, what an idiot. You run a bowl fast, look at you, lunatic. So I said, no, I'm going to open the bowling with Switcher. I didn't say I want to, I'm going to. So I said, I was thinking of them, and they go, whatever. And so I said, listen, the next time I'm here, you guys will be paying to come and watch me play. And we'd had this whole banter there because all those English, they just love winding you up. And those Cockney brothers, they're just hilarious. So I said, yeah, I'll do that. And they just, yeah, righto. So that's 86, 1987. So playing back home, got on a tour to Sri Lanka, and then a bomb went off. So that bomb went off outside the train station. That tour was aborted after one test match. So I didn't play my test match
Just
debut.
before you go there, though, that feeling when you got your name called out to get into got into that team.
That's what I want to know.
Yeah, it's funny. Well, of course, it was a blast. I mean, an absolute blast. And thinking, wow, this is the start of another part of your journey that, you know, you wanted to be doing it at home. In a way, there was part of me that yearned to be called up and you'd be playing at home straight away. But at the same time, I was just grateful. I think I was entirely grateful that here was part of the dream to be realised, to go with Hadley and these guys who you'd watched on the other side of the fence as a teenager, really, and got into trouble at school, wagging back in 1982. We wagged school and got suspended. Go and watch the great Dennis Lilly play Richard Hadley. It was just brilliant. So all of that stuff of crossing the bridge, crossing the divide from fairy tale land to real reality. So that was really cool.
So you didn't play nationally, you went straight internationally.
Well, in terms of playing, you played first-class cricket for sure. You had to play for your province or your state, and I was doing that for Auckland. So I'd had a couple of years of that.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, so that's that interim time of that 86 when I said to these guys, and in London, you'll be coming to watch me play. So I just started playing some first-class cricket. So I had a couple of years of that. And then in 1987 did that, and later in 87...
So hang on, 87 was the call-up not to play in New Zealand, it was to play in Sri Lanka.
Yeah.
Tell us about the bomb.
So the bomb, yeah, that was freaky because there was a lot of the whole thing with the Tamil Tigers, and in the north of Sri Lanka, the rebellion, all that stuff going on there. So there was lots of bombings going off, a lot of political unrest.
Had you played a game?
We played a game down in Gaul, right down the southern tip of Gaul. Howie's been there. Went down to Gaul, and we played a first-class game there. And I remember playing in that, and that was a blast because I couldn't get over how hot it was. The humidity factor. I mean, Queenslanders are laughing, a bit like Cairns or been right up there, but very, very sticky. And we slept with these nets. We slept with these mesh mosquito nets over our beds. It was a wonderful cultural shock of going from little old New Zealand to Sri Lanka and all that heat and to play. And then, as I say, the political unrest, the bomb went off outside the train station, killed quite a few people.
Were you nearby?
What had happened is we would drive past that way to go to the ground. So that was the concern. But this was the last day of the test match, day 5, and the bomb had gone off, and we were oblivious to it. But we could have been coming home that way and it could have gone off. So there's all these, ifs and buts, but still heightened situation, and more of the, the terrorist, the rebellion thing of the Tamil Tigers and making a statement and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, we aborted that tour. So that was a little bit frustrating for a lot of us.
Before you go on, you've been in another area with another bomb blast, haven't you?
Yeah, so that was 1987, In 2002, when I was commentating, I finished playing by 1997, so it was a 10-year playing time of 87 to 97. So this was 5 years later. So I was commentating in Karachi, New Zealand's tour of Pakistan there. And to be fair, prior to that, I missed out on another tour because of my first hernia operation in 92, so just peeling back the time frame. From 87 then to 92 I couldn't go. New Zealand got another bomb blast attack in 1992 where a suicide bomber on a motorbike went through to take out this high-ranking military army officer and drove into the front of the hotel and blew up there, and the charred glass went into the physio's room, and a couple of guys were having physio treatment all through. Could have been the wrong place, wrong time again. So that tour got aborted. Well, not quite. No, sorry, it didn't. They flew in new guys. They carried on with that tour because they presented, to New Zealand cricket. They could stay on. Security-wise, I don't know. Anyway, that happened there. 97, another bunch of planes were blown up at the airport. New Zealand were playing in a tri-series there. I didn't go. I remember just being on radio covering some of it. But again, it seems to follow the New Zealand side around, which is really spooky. And then so in 2002, I was there commentating for TV with another good old Aussie mate, the old Lily and Tomo combination, and Jeffrey Robert Thompson. He was commentating on that. And another mate I played against, a guy called Ian Bishop, a West Indian, bombing off outside the hotel because these French nuclear sub-tech guys were helping build a nuclear sub, all this technical stuff for the Pakistan Navy, because you can appreciate it's a strong point for the United States is Pakistan, and Karachi is a major seaport. So we're in there, and 7:45 like clockwork, the little minibus would go off carrying about 10 of these techs. One guard, I think there's a guard with a gun there, and then the bus driver, and it pulled out, and the suicide bomber just drove straight into him. Huge amount of explosives because the engine of that car went about 80 metres and landed across the intersection of this garden around a roundabout.
And where were you?
So we were in the Sheraton. Both teams, the Pakistan and New Zealand team, were across the road in the Pearl Continental. So that was just freaky. And I'd only gone and opened my curtains, opened my route slide, I went out, looked down the driveway of the Sheraton, had a look down there, pulled those closed, fax under the door from Mrs. Morrison, can believe there. So I sat on the loo, read that, as you
Nice
did back in
place.
the day, sat on the loo reading a fax instead of the newspaper. Okay, got the info, beautiful, popped that down, went back round, 2 double beds, so I started to do a few exercises, did a bit of stretching, a few press-ups, a few sit-ups. I'd open the big curtain, so there's that muslin white cloth, and then it went off, boom. And all the charred glass came piling in, and luckily there was that muslin cloth there, and it all just caved in on that, and then the alarm bells go off, and you're freaking, and you know what it is. And remember, we just had September 11, so September 11 had just happened 6 months before, and here we were in May, and this was happening. And then, of course, the phone rings, and the scary thing of the phone ring while alarm's going, all this glass had caved in your room, and it's Jeffrey Robert Thompson, the great Tomo, is going, F this and that, because he's swearing his head off, because that's what he does too. He's pretty colloquial carrying on. So he's effing and blinding. And I go, mate, look, just get your passport. I don't care what you're wearing. Just get your passport and your wallet. And let's boogie on down the stairs, brother. We're getting out of here. And I said, well, come and get me. And he goes, well, what room? I said, you just ran my room, you idiot. Get down here. Come and get me, Tomo. And so he comes screaming down a couple of floors. He grabbed me and we bolted down these stairs. But I'll never forget going back afterwards. Tomo used to go for a morning walk. He'd go he could have been blown to smithereens. The guard guys, they're dressed up in big cloaks and turbans and stuff. He was blown to pieces. The guy that meets you and greets you at the door, just up the driveway. So he got killed with a blast. Awful. And horrific scene of being in that part of the world.
It's funny, you don't think about the tragedies of being an international sportsman or anything, do you? You don't think about what they've gone through and what they endure. So it was a big shock for us to know that he'd been through this horrific, thing and actually survived it. So it was a pretty tough time.
I rang you because I actually borrowed someone's phone. I rang you because it was all over. The radio guy across the road was with the team, a guy called Brian Waddle, and he was all over the radio. A mate of mine, that's what happened, a mate of mine rang me, that's right, my phone, rang me and he said, listen, just heard the bomb blast, Brian Waddle's on the radio. Mate, you guys okay? I said, Jesus, is it that quickly, within sort of 20 minutes? half an hour. It had been back on radio in New Zealand.
And we didn't know.
And no, so I had to ring. So I said,
So he
"Listen, I'm
rings
gonna
and
ring
he's
you."
running. And all I can hear is him puffing. And I thought he was on the loo.
Charlie.
He was reading the facts on the road.
So I've gone, really? Did you have to ring me while you... And he's going, no, babe, but I'm just letting you know that I'm okay, that
Right, yeah,
there's
right,
blood. Oh,
upstairs.
shit. And he was talking about arms and legs, and I'm going, what? And he goes, just ring Mum and ring Bobsy, his grandmother, and just your mum, and let everyone know I'm okay, but we're running for our freaking lives.
Yeah,
And that was it. It was...
Because we were in the back of the pool. They brought everyone in the back of the pool to Sheraton because it was safer. It was right behind all the frontage and everything. But it was amazing seeing, looking back, all the glass set up in the atrium had all just caved in, that front side of it. And here's this, I'll never forget this woman. She had her 2 little toddlers. One she was carrying, the other one she couldn't. He was a bit older. But I said, love, they've got no shoes on. And there's this glass could have been everywhere, just charred bits of little glass. So I picked this kid up. And they were English because the husband was working for Shell. And I remember just the adrenaline and pumping of that bomb blast, that noise.
It's really interesting that, you're an international sportsman and this is what's happening. And Howard has done a lot of international sports trips around the world and to places.
Hot spots.
Anything happened?
Look, there's always scares, and you don't hear about them. And it was really interesting to me because of my security background that I used to watch the security that went on, particularly Olympic villages, that kind of thing. And as the years went on, it just got heavier and heavier, more and more security. So there is stuff happening, stuff does go on, you just don't hear about it, they kind of keep it really quiet. When I was with the Prince, we had quite a bad scare. This terrorist came in from England. We knew he'd come in, we lost track of him at the airport. I was up, I think, 2 nights, 3 days, just no sleep, standing out, sleeping outside, or not sleeping, sitting outside the Prince's door. So there is this stuff going on. No, you just kind of don't hear about it as much. Which is quite good, because otherwise I think it put fear into... You wouldn't go anywhere.
No.
We live this oblivious life, not really knowing
Yeah, we
all
kind
of
of
these
do.
things that happen.
There's a lot of stuff goes behind the scenes you never really hear about. But just one thing that just was really interesting, Danny made the comment where Deke said, dream big. And you asked me what kind of drives me as well, and I just clicked in. When you said dream big, I always dream big, always. And the other thing for it is people say to you, oh, you can't do it. Well, that to me is like, that's just such a challenge, or what do you want to do that for? And particularly happen in the police because of government sort of mentality, and I people listen to it maybe, but a lot of friends say, well, what do you want to do that for? Why do you want to leave Australia and go to be the chiropractor? What on earth are you thinking, Howard?
Yes.
How
many people get that all the time?
You've got a secure job.
Yeah, secure job. Why do you want to leave? And you're going to leave your friends and your mates and the place and the more they said that, the more I wanted to go. And I imagine probably the same with you. The more people say you can't do it, you're too short, you're not tall enough, you're too stumpy, can't bowl.
He's being rude to you, isn't he,
I
Dan?
know it all the time. And it was great. And I looked back and said, was that a challenge for me? Was it laying down the God? Not really. Because isn't it funny, I lived in my own little world a bit, because we lived, and you were spoiled, really, when I look back and having gone overseas and done a lot of things to third world countries, was that you just simply desired it. And I've run into schoolmates since, and the underlying thing was classic actually. And they says, "Geez, Dan, obviously proud of you," but he says, "Geez, you showed a lot of us, because obviously a lot of us thought, good on you, but we never thought you'd go that far. We never really thought you could do what you've done, create what you've done, or live that dream." And it's funny, I think like anyone, if you deeply desire it enough, if you really want this bad enough, and you're going about, and look, all of that interesting thing that we touched on in terms of we do and use in our lives, like manifesting and visualisation was massive for me.
You can see it.
Yeah, my mother instilled that, and she gave me these tapes. I'll never forget, she gave me these cassette tapes.
Tapes.
Yeah,
I've heard that for a while.
Cassette tapes to listen to at night, about visualising and being positive, and then this other healing orange light, and these other different coloured lights, and she was big on all these other crystals, which were probably, because I think, it's a bit esoteric and a bit funky, but it was a thing that was alternative, but allowed me to think and visualise and see yourself doing it, and then almost like you all the time dream about it. It was hilarious. You dream a lot of cricket. Oh God, how boring.
Did both of you? I know Danny does. Did you too, Howie? Danny's got this little notebook that he put quotes in, or things that someone would say, or things that he was given about manifesting his dreams and his goals. Are you both that kind? Like, do you both write your goals down now still? And
I write my goals down. Do I write so much the quotes and so on? No, not really. I just can see it clearly. I just see it, and it's right in front of me. And for example, there's things happening in the office at the moment. Like, I want to get our stuff into China, Hong Kong, UK, and America. So I actually went out and bought flags of each of those countries, and they're sitting up in the office, big flags. So as soon as I walk in, that's the first thing I see. It kind of goes smacks you in the face every day. Bang, 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 bang. So it's that kind of thing that I do. Do I write down in a diary? No, not really. But I can just see it.
You're very visual. You're You're visionary too.
Yeah. See, sometimes with Cyndi, I say that I want to be a global company that feeds the world. 500,000 people working for changing habits. People say, 500,000. Okay, what's wrong with that? But that includes villages and farms and all this kind of stuff that will produce, goods and so on to feed the world. But I can see it, whereas sometimes with Cyndi, with that kind of stuff, it's a bit scary for her. But to me, it's just great, and it's right there, right in front of me every day. Bang. Yeah.
I remember we've just had a weekend of education a couple of weekends ago, and one of the things I did say is I was very happy with my book and speaking and doing, nothing else. I was very happy doing that. And then that I talked about that Howard had joined the organisation. And I said what Howard saw was a huge vision. What I also saw the vision, but I worked on a weekly basis because it was too scary for me to think further ahead. Whereas with the two of us together, like, I'm happy doing what I'm told to do, versus Howie, who's out there doing all this global stuff and all this other stuff. And in the beginning, I was like, every time when he moved us from the house to the first office, I went, why have you bought this big, how are we going to fill this office and warehouse? And we filled it, and we got another one. Then we filled those two, and we went into a bigger one. I've stopped worrying about it now. I don't think about it now. I just leave that to Howie.
You've given him the freedom.
Yeah, just let him go, and because then I have no worry anymore. I don't fear anything.
There's nothing to fear though. When you have a fearless leader at the front taking charge, who's proven himself the whole time, which is a beautiful male role of creating and providing and protecting.
So I just get to do my little thing, what I love to do, which is the speaking and writing and creating, and how it
such a good
runs the whole company. And it is that vision that you've both talked about, that you have, whereas I'm probably the person that's just happy doing that. Whereas I think you, Kim, have a visionary look at things. I know it's there, but without Howard being behind the scene, it's really, really, it would have been really hard for me to even get that education going, or to even do that weekend, that I did.
It's always really interesting. So also talking to people about goals, and they say, well, you set this goal, what if the goal's wrong? You go, well, there's really no such thing as a wrong goal. You may set the goal, and you may have to readjust that goal. But, a lot of people have that fear of, I'll set a goal, and what if I don't reach the goal? I'll set that goal. What if it's the wrong goal? So they don't set any goals, and they don't go anywhere. So to me, it's so important to set that goal. And I used to quote to our kids, actually, about goal setting and getting to the goal, that a plane will take off, let's say, from Auckland to go to Christchurch, and it doesn't go in a direct line ever, because of wind and currents and clouds and whatever. So it's always heading off on one tangent, then they've got to correct it, comes back, get back, but eventually they do get to the goal. So your goal setting in life is like
playing
that.
Golf, Howard.
Playing golf all over the place. You get into the scrub and into the GUR, G-A-G-U-R.
I'm always adjusting.
Always adjusting. But that's what it's all about, Set your goal, readjust it if you have to, but make sure you just hold that vision.
Do you both, you, Howie, do you feel your goal with changing habits, is that a legacy goal now? Like this, to have 500,000 people working for changing habits is going to take quite a few years. Are you happy now to stay in this role, or do you still think there's more roles for you to do beyond being the CEO of Changing Habits?
Gee, will I stay in this role? No, that's not my personality. You know,
Mr. Adventure.
Mr. Adventure. I mean, I've already morphed really now from being sort of the go-to and the creating it and growing it to the CEO and still doing everything and putting the GM in now. So I'm a whole different role now again, and I can see probably another 5 years different role altogether. Legacy, I'd love to see the kids come in and take it over. Love to, you know that, and that's where that 500,000 will come in. Will it be in my lifetime? Probably not. Would it get close to it? Damn right it will. You know, 200,000, 300,000.
If you don't kill yourself in the process, let's just talk about that, shall we?
That's what adventurers do. They get hurt sometimes.
Tell it, or they hurt others.
Yeah.
Danny, what about you? You set the goal. This is interesting because they're both. If you notice, they're both opposite personality types.
Yes.
Yet they're both high achievers. So Danny set a goal of playing cricket for 10 years. Tell us that story and how you did just play cricket for 10 years.
Yeah, look,
Is that right? Is that the goal that you set? It was just 10 years.
Well,
you didn't say 20 years?
No. Look, I'd said, here's another. I wanted to do it for 10 years, and look, I think I was being realistic and grateful. I think for the thing I was doing, which was fast bowling, was very tough on the body. So I was very grateful that I could go for that length of time. And no one can, you know, in terms of write that script. Look, it might have lasted only 5 years with an injury or 8 years. But look, as it turned out, it was pretty much 10 years. And there was changes afoot there, and, you know, different people, like different bosses come and go, don't they? So, you know, then you've got different choice of angles. I did laugh with Kim then I started commentating, and I always wanted to be out there, and I could clearly, obviously, we articulate quite well, don't we? All four of us can talk quite well. We get the words out and go for it forever. And then so I thought, well, look, in terms of moving into the realm of commentating or talking about the game, or like selling the game in a way, in New Zealand, was that I said to Kim, we were down in Wellington, at the Basin Reserve. There was a Boxing Day Test match on. That's right. And then someone was just asking. There was a group of us around there, New Zealand guys and some other commentator mates were there, weren't they? And, oh, Danny, and look, how long do you envision? You know, could you see yourself envisaging doing this for a while? Do you like this angle? I mean, television or radio or writing about it and stuff like that. I said, oh, you look. And Kim goes, really? And Kim looked at me, and how long do you want to do this for? I said, oh, how about 20 years? And that 20 years would be in 2 more years' time, minimum. So, you know, when I said that 1998, we're talking 2 years from now, would be 2018. And I've looked at that and different things, how he's...
And here I was thinking it was all over when he retired from cricket.
Yeah, so Kim's like,
No.
Jesus.
So you've been in cricket nearly 30, well, more than 30 years.
Really. But different facets of it, which is amazing.
Yeah.
You can play, well, then you can talk about it, you can write a bit about it, you know, in terms of making judgments on it. And then this whole revolution that's come along, again about the Kerry Packer revolution from 1977, there was rebel stuff and day-night stuff came in a whiteboard and colour clothing, to this other revolution now of 2020 cricket, very short version cricket. So there's only 20 overs each, not even 50 overs each, which was Packer's
Oh, is
thing.
that why it's called 2020?
Yeah.
I always wondered why it was called 2020.
Because it's 20 overs each. So there's only 40 overs of the match. So how cool is that? Well, exactly. You learn something new every day, Cynthia.
I do. I hear you guys talking about it all the time, but I never think to ask,
T20s.
what does 2020 mean?
Where's Danny going? He's going on another T20 gig.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like my sister congratulating him on his hat-trick he got for New Zealand. Oh, congratulations on that hole in the hat, she said.
The hole in the hat.
We're not quite sure where that one goes.
Hole in the hat.
So in terms, we can see that you're both very creative. You're both able to adapt. You're both amazing at really creating the pathway that you both love. What would you say? Can we get a little bit deeper here and go into about what men are like out there in the world? Do men talk? Are men courageous enough to share their emotions these days? What's both your take? I mean, we know, Howie, you're slightly older than Danny, but like from your vision, got that one in because Cindy's slightly older than me.
I was waiting on that one.
What's both your take on what it is to be a man in this world here and now?
Good question.
Gee, you know, that's going to open up a can of worms.
Go on. Do we need?
Well, what's it like to be a man in this world today? I think it's tough. I think it's pretty tough. I think men in general have lost their way. And in this world today, particularly someone like myself, who right from day one has always really spoken up and tried to keep my own personality or my own drive or who I am, it's tough. Because in the days now of, dare I say it, women's liberation that came in some years back, more women in the workforce, particularly in the CEO jobs, so the high jobs. And on that too, it was interesting because I think it was Time magazine 15 years ago, they interviewed this lady. I just forget who it is, Danny, mate, because you can pull out those facts and figures, you know who it was and when it was, what time and everything. But I remember reading about this lady who was a top CEO of one of the top Fortune 500 companies. And they interviewed her in 2 or 3 hours, and she said, if you had your time over again, would you do what you were doing? And all of them said no. I'd rather be with the family, raising the family, going back to what the grassroots were. So have we lost our way as a male race? Yes. Has society changed a lot? Yes. Has it changed for the better? I don't believe so. I think we need to more clearly define our roles as to male and female, and particularly within the household. Once maybe the kids have left home, it's a whole different ballgame. But within the household structure, within the family structure, very, very important, I believe, to go back to the old roots that we used to have. So that's going to, I can feel it's going to open up quite a bit.
We were talking about it in our last podcast.
Yeah.
You know,
just on that too, and I find men too have lost their ability to speak up. And it's also interesting, there's very few, if not none, on the coast here, men's groups. There's men's sheds, and these guys go in there and, create.
What do they do?
Well, I'm not quite sure. They're going and
it's so funny. We were talking about this in the
the
last podcast, that there was no place for men.
No.
But the men's shed. But we didn't know what they did.
Yeah. Well, I'm not quite sure either. But there's also, there's women's shelters, there's women's this, there's women's that. And when I was a policeman as well, there was a lot of guys out there in trouble. And we talk about domestic violence, and it all comes in on women. There's a lot of domestic violence out there against guys. And they have nowhere to go. They have no one to talk to, no groups to talk to, no support groups. Really interesting, there's just a guy on the coast here who's created one called The Conscious Man. And it's actually on the 28th of this month, the first meeting ever. I'm going to go along and have a listen. And they're trying to really get men involved and get the guys to speak out more and just become more involved in their families as well. I think they've become very disorientated from families due to pressure. So, men need to stand up, they need to speak up, and they need to retain their role, and they've lost their role.
would you like to be dropped back into the 1950s?
In terms of the economy, no, but in terms of the way things were structured, yes.
What about you, Danny?
Mine's different from Howie's only because I came from a very female-orientated scenario. So I understand where Howie's coming from totally. There isn't that thing, and because I was a front person for men's line, but that was more at the front end. Once you'd really hit the wall, there was nothing, no structures in place in terms of having a place where like Howie's going to support groups to discuss things out in the open. It came down to the old ambulance, at the bottom of the cliff rather than a fence at the top to stop all that stuff. So really, in terms of the structure for men, and all four of us have been to a very wonderful, fascinating woman called Jacqueline Trost, and we've all seen her at different times for therapy. And she too is along the lines of what Howie's saying in terms of the defined roles have changed. So there's a real mesh over and a real mixture in society of women having such stronger roles. Look, I'm not averse to that at all, but I also understand where, in terms of if the woman is at home with the group of the family, we're talking about whilst, as Howie's saying, whilst the nest is still there, that the offspring is still at home, then that whole wonderful thing of either doing it together or the woman helping in the kitchen or wanting to be there, wanting to feed and prepare food like that, and that's not being chauvinistic. I think that's just being that lovely nurturing ability of the yin and the yang where women have that rather than the men have that. And the men are traditionally hunter-gatherers, peel it right back to the basics, caveman days, all that sort of thing. Get all that, but I understand there's a mix, and as Howie said, is it for the better? we'll soon find out even more as time goes on. But there's real contrast and conflicts of what's going on and why are some of this next Y generation having so many issues. There's lots of arguments for that, and we could take up a massive amount of podcast time about the balance of the male teenager, of where he's going and what he's about and how good he feels about stuff, because of the dominance and women being out there in dominating positions, whether it's CEOs, whether it's prime ministers, the whole fronting of it, and how that's really changed the landscape in the last 2 decades. And so that was interesting with Jacqueline Trost. I found that fascinating, that she, too, what Howie's on about, getting a bit more clearly defined roles where the women add such an important and integral part of the ingredient, if you like, at home, whether it's around the food issue, around disciplined time and stuff. Like you and I have this issue too, because I'm away a lot, I'm on the road a lot, doing my passion, if you like, and of hunter-gathering. I'm away a lot, whereas you're at home a lot, running the house, running lots of things in the house, and the discipline side of things. So then I come back at times and upset the apple cart a bit in terms of where it's at. And I get that too, and see that's not an easy dynamic as well.
And a lot of men are doing this now. They're in FIFO, fly in, fly out.
Yeah.
Where they're away for a month at a time, back for a month, or away 3 months, back for 3 months.
Gone are the days where we'd say, wait till your father gets home. We're going to say that
we'll
anymore.
forget that in 3 months, won't we?
Yeah. There is a breakdown of that part of society in general. At risk of sounding chauvinistic, I'm not. But you would look now at the divorce rates and the young couples who are getting married and they're split up very shortly afterwards and all this kind of stuff. There's a real need to go back to our roles and define our roles a bit more.
I always talk on our podcast around the distinct roles that I believe are the essence of men and women. Tell me if you think you agree then, given what you've said, because they don't listen to our podcast, so they don't know what we talk about.
No idea.
I listen to some of them.
It's just a pleasure to get a word in actually at the moment.
They're such lions. But I too, even last week, talked about it, is that the woman's role at essence is to nourish and nurture. Nourish and nurture is our essence. And the man's essence is to provide and protect, or hunt and gather is what you just said. And I do believe that men can nourish and nurture. They can cook, they can give beautiful guidance, they can actually have that real soft feminine aspect of their masculinity. And I also believe that women can provide and protect. If you've ever seen a woman try and protect a child running across the road, you'll see the masculine energy come to the fore. And I truly believe that that's appropriate. And if we only learnt to honour that, I truly believe relationships would sing a lot greater tunes. Do you both agree with that kind of belief? I mean, yes, we're in a very modern world. Jacqueline felt that women shouldn't be running countries, nor should they be on the front line, nor should they be in top masculine roles. She believed the feminist movement, whilst it was great on one level as far as, being abused or being put or shunted or not paid well and things like that, that was great.
No vote
and all those
that.
things. Yeah. The feminist movement was fantastic, but it's almost like we've taken it a little bit too far again now, and women don't know who they are anymore, and men don't know who they are anymore. Okay, so we are actually going to take a pause here because it is so nice to have both our beautiful husbands in the room, and we want to continue the conversation next week. So if you've enjoyed this week's podcast with the gorgeous Howard O'Meara and Danny Morrison, then please go to www.thewellnesscouch.com/up-for-a-chat and place your comments and questions or anything you've got there on this week's podcast. If you'd also like to go to facebook.com/up-for-a-chat, then please post your comments and feedback there. Don't forget to go to iTunes for it to give us our 5-star rating. And please know that we're going to split this so that you get to enjoy these guys for another hour next week, because we know after waiting for 3 years to get them on, there's a lot more we've got to ask next week. So join us here next week on Up for a Chat and become part of the ripple effect that's changing the world. We'll see you soon.
This has been a production of TheWellnessCouch.com. Check us out on Facebook and join in the conversation on Facebook.com/TheWellnessCouch. Subscribe to each show on iTunes and check us out on Twitter. The Wellness Couch, streaming wellness into your lives. Whilst the Wellness Couch presenter endeavor to provide accurate and helpful information to their listeners, these podcasts cannot take into account individual circumstances and are not intended to be a substitute for health and medical advice from a qualified health professional. You should always seek the advice of a qualified health professional before acting on any of the information provided by any of the Wellness Couch podcasts.